Peace, family. Peace, family. This is your brother, Agent 2020. I started a little early today, so I just wanted to go ahead on and get a few things set up. This is my first live about this particular subject. Okay. This particular subject is called being critical of Christian nationalism. Now, for those who don't really know what Christian nationalism is specifically, we're going to get into all of that tonight. Now, this is just going to be part one of a series that's going to go on for, it's going to be a couple of parts to it. We're going to get off into this whole Christian nationalist thing. And the reason why I had white at the beginning of it is because that's what it's being called now by people who either used to be in it and that are no longer in it, or people who espouse the doctrine to the fullest. This is what they call it. Okay. This is what they call it. So I wanted to do something real quick. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a young lady. And her name is Monty Mater. Okay. This is her right here. Very intelligent young lady. Very intelligent. She's well versed in Bible, scripture and everything else, as well as explanations and theology and doctrine when it comes to this Christian nationalism thing. Now, this particular video that she has, this was one on her podcast. You can go follow her on Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, just type her name in, you'll be able to pull her up. She has been what she calls deconstructing from this for a while. Now, I've watched a couple of her videos, very educated young lady. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play the first part of this video. It's just going to be a couple of minutes, probably about a minute, 20 seconds, where she's basically starting the explanation of this dominion theory and the Seven Mountains Mandate. Okay. Now, she's going to let you know what that is. And then after this video, we're going to come back and I'm going to give you the definition of Christian nationalism or white Christian nationalism. Then we're going to dive into it. So check this out.
Should have brought whiskey with me today. Genesis 1:28 says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. If you listen to right-leaning pastors or J.D. Vance or most members of the MAGA movement, you'll hear things about needing Christian leaders, how this is a Christian nation, and how Christians should rule the government. This is called dominion theology, which started in the 1970s in earnest and became what we now know as the Seven Mountains Mandate. This verse, which is the basis of dominion theology, and the Seven Mountains Mandate also play a key role in the Christian push to force women to have as many kids as possible. After all, doesn't the Bible say be fruitful and multiply? We'll deal with that later. The mandate is the idea that Christians are called to control the seven spheres or mountains of influence in the world. These mountains are religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business. And none of this is biblical, but it is an effective tool to gain power and so much money. Today, we discuss the foundational teachings of Christian nationalism, the Seven Mountains Mandate, its origins and growth, and why it's utter horseshit today on Flipping Tables.
Okay. So this is how she starts this off. Now, if you're not familiar, if you're not familiar with the Seven Mountains Mandate, I'm gonna bring that up too. Um, Hold on real quick, family. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give you the definition of white Christian nationalism. Then I'm gonna come back, go over those seven mountain mandates, and then we're going to get into the 9 areas of people activity, which include a couple of those mandates. But we're going to get into the 9 areas of people activity that's been outlined by Dr. Neely Fuller and reiterated and added into the definition of racism, white supremacy by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. May both of them rest in paradise and power for the contribution that they brought to us as far as letting us know about this knowledge. So, white Christian nationalism is a political, cultural ideology that fuses 3 elements: whiteness or race based identity, Christianity, specifically a version of Christianity anchored in Protestant assumptions, and nationalism, the belief that a nation belongs to the belief that a nation belongs to and should reflect the identity of a particular people. More specifically, in the U.S. context, WCN, white Christian nationalism, holds that America is and ought to remain a Christian nation founded by white Christians whose laws, practices, and public culture, should reflect the identity and privilege of that should reflect the identity and privilege of that group. Okay, that's Siri. Don't worry about her. Let's do this. That should identify and privilege that group. Okay, so this is what I pulled up on ChatGPT. See, I use ChatGPT for the right reasons. Some people use it for other stuff, but I try to use it, to help and aid in my research. I got a couple of more videos we gonna look at too. That's not the end of it. That's just the beginning. Okay, that's just the beginning. So this idea of white Christian nationalism, as we see on the screen, has a lot of key figures to it. This is just what I'm showing you right here on the screen is just a little bit of it. But I'm gonna read from this. I'm gonna read from from my iPad here. A few characteristics, key characteristics. One, the idea that Christians, often implicitly white Protestants, are the true Americans and rightful bearers of national identity. Another characteristic, the belief that national identity and Christian identity should largely overlap. An example, being an American means being a Christian and vice versa. Another one, a vision that laws, governance, and public culture should reflect Christian moral and religious values as interpreted by adherents, and that non Christians, racial, ethnic minorities, LGBTQ plus persons, immigrants, etc., are less central or even excluded from the favored national identity. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of days, okay, um, there has been a lot of different things that's been going on here lately. And they've all been centered around this Christian nationalism idea. Okay. Now, one of the things that's been like all over the internet and um, a lot of people have been talking about is that was the amazing Lucas, for all of those who never heard of him. Um, what's been all over the internet here lately are these pastors and these preachers who've been talking about this white Christian nationalist ideology or view from a racial standpoint, for one, and for two, for the sole purpose of trying to burn in the minds of the American people that this is a nation that was founded by Christians and for Christians. Okay. And that's nowhere in the Constitution. Nowhere at all in the Constitution, just so y'all know. And they are talking specifically and mainly about the behavior, patterns, statistics of black on white crime and the reason why we shouldn't be involved or included in anything that goes on. They also talk about, one of them in particular talks about how we are spawns of the devil. This is black people of color. I'm going to play that clip for you here in a second as soon as I find it, you know. But he talks about this specifically. And the reason why he talks about this is because he wants to make it clear that one of the things that goes on within this Christian nationalism is that white men are now considered victims. Not only are they victims, but they're being blamed for everything that's been going on, and they have to shift that blame towards somebody else now. So I'm gonna find this clip real quick of this particular pastor and what he said. I'm going to think I know where to get it. Hold on. I'm gonna pull this up specifically from a actual pastor of a church. Okay. Um, I don't know how many people are really on YouTube like that, but this man, his name is well, his page is called the Defiant Lawyers Network. And I think no, he told a story there. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Okay, we're gonna go here. We're gonna go here. Now, the reason why we're going here is because this is gonna definitely give you another explanation of what this whole thing is all about. Now, this video is called Church Calls for Stoning Black People, the Racist Theology Behind the 5% Lie. This is by Dark Brandon, as you can see. Like the little cartoon thing. All of these people that I'm using, this is fair use. And all of these people I'm using, I'm going to need y'all to go to their pages and actually watch these whole videos. I'm gonna need y'all to watch the whole thing, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna start tying this stuff in real neat like, and I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you with the roadmap here. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. You know, when it comes to truth, we're supposed to put down a roadmap so you'll be able to follow the map how you need to follow it. Okay. Now, listen to what Brandon says here. So check this out.
Hope you're doing well today. I'm really wondering what the hell is going on. Just the other day, we were looking at people from a church who were making the case that black people should be grateful for slavery. And today, we're going to be looking at people from a different church who are trying to justify bringing back public executions and stonings, specifically directed at black people.
Let's say that somebody was coming into our church and they're black, and would they be eligible for membership in our church? Yes, they of course they would. They'd be eligible for membership in our church. And
so that was it. The word that we were all looking for. But and he tried to dodge it, right? He tried to swerve it at first. He's like, and then he's like, well, actually, it's a but. Let's see how he recovers from this.
But would they be permitted to participate in, embody, and practice what I would call black culture generally in our church? The answer is absolutely not. Why? Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization, in the same way Paul's talking about Cretans on Crete, they are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan.
Okay, so he's making a claim that black people could join the church, but must not practice what he would call black culture.
So I'm going to pause that right there for a second now. This is what I want y'all to understand. And I'm specifically talking to not only black people, people of color, what I'm talking to the whole human family. Okay? I'm talking to the whole human family. Black, brown, yellow, Caucasian, or white. Okay? The whole human family, regardless of what your preferences are, no matter what it is you call yourself believing in, gender equality, all of that stuff. We're not even talking about any of that stuff right now. I'm talking to the whole human family specifically. I want you to understand that the stuff that they are talking about, they're talking directly about us, and they're wanting you to agree with them based on what they tell you to agree with, based on what they believe. Okay. Now, you heard him just say, like Paul said about the people on the island of Crete. Now, the island of Crete is in the Aegean Sea, Greek Isles. Okay. Those are Greek people. Now, according to him, Paul said all of the stuff that he just said about them. They've come to steal, kill, and destroy. That's what Satan does. Murderous, barbarous. And he called all of those things black culture. Now, if you've ever been around any black person in your life, the roughest the roughest neighborhood that we live in, where it's just us, um, any majority minority city, if you've ever been to any of these places, then you should be able to tell me that's how we think. And you should be able to give more than a couple of instances that we've come to kill, steal, and destroy. Hold on. I'm gonna play it one more time for you, just so you can really understand what this dude is actually saying. Okay, and we're gonna start right here.
And practice what I would call black culture generally in our church? The answer is absolutely not. Why? Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization, in the same way Paul's talking about Cretans on Crete, they are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan.
Okay, so he's making a...
Now, that was just the beginning. Okay, that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. Watch this.
claim that black people could join the church, but must not practice what he would call black culture, which he broadly defines as violent and criminal. So what he's doing is he's taking the behaviors of just a few individuals and projecting them onto an entire race or culture, even taking this racial identity of black as a more fixed moral category rather than recognizing the variation across communities, class, region, age, let alone, not even trying to understand the systematic oppression that led us to this place. And so take note, this is conditional inclusion. Racial stereotyping dressed up as church discipline. So after making his generalizations and applying collective guilt, he ends it by saying they look like Satan. This is where it defies their own beliefs, right? It denies the image of God. Every person bears God's image. This is from...
Okay. Now you heard him say that, right? Every person bears God's image. That's what he said. Okay. Now, these are white Christian nationalists. Now, was another preacher that was talking about, he was pro-slavery. He doesn't talk about that on this video, but I got the video where he does talk about this. Now, I'm going to read something else to you real quick in my research. Quote, "It is difficult. It's difficult to point to a single founder of WCN because it's not a formal organization that sprang up fully formed. Rather, it emerged over centuries through the interplay of religion, colonialism, racial identity, and nationalism. But we can trace major influences and turning points. Early roots. The tradition of Christian nationalism in America traces back to the early English colonists, especially Puritans in New England, who believed they were a chosen people on a mission and established societies where church and state were closely intertwined. The idea of America as a Christian nation or a society under God was reinforced over time, especially through Protestant culture and assumption that the American project had a divine or moral purpose." Now we're going to skip down a little bit, and we are going to go into what Modi said. Okay. Late 20th century, new Christian right and political mobilization. Now, I want y'all to listen to this because now this right here specifically is the beginning of the tucking and hiding of something that used to be all the way out in the open. This used to be open thought, open philosophy that was talked about amongst the people, regardless of who was around. Okay. When we go back to the early 1900s, the beginning of the 20th century, you know, my grandmother, great grandmother were born during this time period. Okay. Late 20th century, new Christian right and political mobilization. In the 1970s and 80s, groups such as the Moral Majority, founded by Jerry Falwell, look him up, mobilized conservative Christians into a political arena. While not always explicitly framed as white Christian nationalism, the overlap of Christianity and American identity, conservative politics increased. In the 1990s onward, scholars increasingly identified Christian nationalism as a direct phenomenon, then later white Christian nationalism to emphasize the racial dimensions. For instance, the book Blood and Politics by Leonard Zeskind, 2009, traces white nationalist movements, including Christian nationalist variants, from the fringes to more mainstream visibility. Then we get into the 2000 and 2010s. Okay. Now, 2000 to 2010, from 2000 to 2008, George W. Bush was the president. 2008 to 2016, Obama was president. Now, in the 2000s and 2010s, WCN became more visible in response to demographic change, decline of white majorities, cultural shifts, LGBTQ rights, secularism, and political polarization. Scholars describe these as catalysts. Now, you know what a catalyst is. You know, they say you want to make a volcano, you get all the ingredients together, and then you add that one ingredient that creates the whole reaction. You know, heat something up real hot and add sugar to it and watch how the sugar just bubbles, and then it, you know what I'm saying? So from the early to mid 1900s all the way up until now, this is what's been going on. So the reason why I'm being critical when it comes to white Christian nationalism is because, first of all, it's not from God specifically. And the people who are telling you this were probably the people who were related to, familiar with, or lived next door to slave masters, plantations, lived in the same cities as these people did. Oh, those are some pretty good people, man. They're good people, man. Don't pay no attention to that. No. Okay. In my last video I did, which I'm gonna need y'all to go check out, using God as a shield for your dirty practices, that's exactly what's been going on since the beginning. We go all the way back to the late 14th century, mid 14th century, and they've been using God to shield their dirty practices by saying that this was ordained by him. Hold on real quick. I'm about to pull something up for y'all to see. So you'll be able to understand exactly where I'm coming from. If you haven't heard of the inner Ketera, then my suggestion would be for you to go and look that up. The inner Ketera. The inner Ketera was written May 4th, 1493, a year after Columbus came back from his voyage. Alexander the Fourth. No, sorry, Alexander the Sixth. Pope Alexander the Sixth of Rome. So, the most famous bull associated with the start of European claims in the New World is the Inner Ketera, issued 4 May 1493, a few months after Christopher Columbus's return. To understand the Inner Ketera, one must situate it in the context of the Age of Discovery, okay, and the rivalry between Iberian powers. After Columbus's 1492 voyage, supported by Ferdinand and Isabella, the ones who got assassinated right before World War I started, Spain claimed expansive new territories across the Atlantic. Portugal, already active along the African coast, felt that Spanish claims might infringe upon Portuguese interests. There was a competition and uncertainty about how to divide rights to lands discovered by Europeans. Papal authority and territorial claims. In the medieval and early Renaissance period, the papacy claimed a kind of universal spiritual and, in some sense, temporal jurisdiction. Now, if you don't know what jurisdiction is, it's the power to control an area. So, as far as where I'm at in Indiana goes, I'm in the jurisdiction of Madison County. So Madison County Sheriffs, Madison County Sheriffs, Anderson, Elwood, Frankton Police Departments, Anderson, Elwood, Frankton Courts, Anderson, Elwood, Frankton politicians. This is their jurisdiction. Okay. It could grant or confirm rights to Christian monarchs. Now, this is the content of the Inner Ketera right here. Addressed to Ferdinand and Isabella, the Catholic monarchs of Spain. It begins by affirming that it pleases God that the Catholic faith and Christian religion be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. This is exactly what happened. So they felt like this. If they're not Christian, make them Christians. And if you can't make them Christians, then you take over the land and then make them Christians after you do that. So there was nobody cared about who said what to any, nobody cared about what was going on that land before these people came. The only thing that mattered after that, you're gonna, as we say in the old verbiage of state property, you're gonna get down or lay down. You're gonna do this or we're gonna do this. If you don't like that, we don't care. You either gonna get with it or you're gonna get ran over. We're gonna make you. So in this intercateria, what he ended up doing was he ended up splitting the eastern and the western hemispheres of the world. He gave the western hemispheres to Portugal. I mean, the eastern hemispheres to Portugal, if I'm not mistaken, and the western hemispheres to Spain. So you wonder why you speak Spanish, Mexicans, Argentinians, Nicaraguans, Central South America, all the way up to Mexico, the border. You wonder why you speak Spanish? You speak Spanish because that's who you were conquered and colonized by. Now, understand this part of it. That was the order that was made by Rome, the same people who came with Roman Catholicism. Okay. We all know what's going on with them right now. We don't even got to get off into that. We're just going to stick with the Christian nationalism thing because these are the roots of it. Spreading the gospel across the world at the end of the gun most of the time. If you're not with it, then we're going to make you get with it. The same people use the book, the Holy Bible, as a blueprint for doing this. A blueprint. Now we fast forward to 2025. And we got people talking about this to the point to where they have no couth at all. They're just saying what they need to say to be saying it. And they're not caring what you think. They don't care about what you say. They don't care about how you feel about it. Could possibly care less. Now I'm gonna find the actual video where this man actually said this out of his mouth. So you'll have an idea, a true idea. I want to find the actual video itself. Hold on, I'm about to look it up for us. Give me a quick minute. Give me a quick minute, family. I'm gonna look this up because this stuff, there's no excuse for it, and if you let them get away with it, they're going to keep getting away with it. If you don't say anything about it, they're not going to stop. And they're going to use God and the Bible to shield their dirty practices to the point to where they're going to try to use this book specifically to justify it. I mean, you gonna let them do that? You gonna let them justify all of this without saying anything about it at all? Period. You just gonna let them say this stuff and then, let me see. Should I believe that, or what should I? Really? No, that's not what we're doing today. That is not what we're doing today. Hold on. This is crazy. I really need to find that. Hold on. I'm gonna find it. Give me a quick second. I'm really because you got to hear it directly from him. Because I don't think the guy that I was using earlier, I don't think he gets any more into that particular thing. Hold on, let me see if he does.
Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today.
Oh yeah, he does. Okay. I had to fast forward it a little bit. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna listen to the next part of this particular video. This is just one video now. I haven't even gotten into nothing like really. This is just one video. 40 minutes. I just gave you the explanation, let you hear a little bit about this pastor, gave you a little bit of background on where some of this stuff is coming from, how these things started, the people involved, and gave you some names. Jerry Falwell, then talked about the Nicotera, and we're gonna get into more names and more figures. We're just scratching the surface right now, but this is why you should be critical of anybody who gets to talking about this. I'm gonna give you some code words, some keywords to look out for, as well as some of the things you might want to keep in mind when you walk up and you might be standing in line at the store and you hear some people conversating about it in front of you. Some signs and symbols, because signs and symbols are for the conscious mind. I'm gonna give you some signs and some symbols to look out for. Now I'm gonna take this from Lori Daniels. I think that's what her name is. Pete, his mama said he ain't shit. Hegseth has the Iron Cross, and if anybody know about the Iron Cross, look that up. The Iron Cross tattooed on his chest. Look up who uses that sign. Just look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Watch this.
This is a church, right? These guys should know this stuff.
So when we make this generalization, one of the purposes of it, one of the points of utility for it, is for Black people who do not embody that culture to repudiate it, hate it, and also for policymakers to make the kind of political movements and in terms of law and order that would usher in the change over time of that culture.
So there's a lot to unpack here. He himself says he's making these generalizations. And it's obviously a textbook fallacy, right? Individuals commit crimes. Black culture is not a moral agent. He's really trying to treat race or culture as if it's the same thing as sinful behavior. But the other thing he's doing is trying to encourage Black people to treat Black people the same way he is, to make stereotypes based on race instead of understanding individuals and their moral outlook.
Okay. Now, that's the next part. You walk into their church. You can't practice Black culture as they say. You have to repudiate that. Now, I'm a Black man, okay? As you can see, it's I'm Black. You see that, right? You see that. So, let me let you in on a few things that Black people think. First of all, we don't like crime. Okay? Contrary to what you believe, we don't like danger. We don't want our children, our elders, our parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, nieces, nephews, nobody in our family or anybody else's family to have to live in fear in our community. We don't get down like that. What you see out there in the streets is a direct result of what's going on in the community, what's not there. Okay. Imagine going to a black community and you see nothing but jobs. You see nothing but buildings and businesses all over the place. You don't see any children hanging out on the street. You don't see them toting guns, talking about they gonna beat this person up, beat that person up. You don't see them in no gangs or none of that stuff. Okay. That has been a part of our history right here in the United States. Some of these race grifters talk about it all the time. Well, in the 1940s and 50s, it wasn't that much. Nah, it was just as much stuff going on in the 1940s and 50s than it is right now. But what was going on in the streets stayed in the streets. What happened in the home stayed in the home. Okay? If you wanted to be a quote unquote criminal, guess what? Guess where you had to go? You had to go hang out where the criminals hung out at. You couldn't just do it in front of anybody because they wasn't accepting that in no way, shape, or form. They wasn't having that at all. Like at all. Okay? Whoever said we didn't like the law lied again, because we want safe and decent places for our people to live. We've never embraced any negative activity. We've never embraced any criminal activity like, that's our life. No. But you're talking to a people who's been through a whole lot up until this point, who everybody says always has to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps. Yeah, we're still talking about being critical of white Christian nationalism, because these are the things that they use to justify their position. And once they justify their position, they want to carry that out. Remember those seven mountain mandate I was talking about earlier with Modi Mater, when she was talking about that earlier? She was talking about that for a reason. Now, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go back to it. So now when I go back to it, what it ought to do is it ought to let you know.
The Southern Baptist Church.
It ought to
Should have
let
brought
you
whiskey
know
with me today.
exactly what she's talking about. It ought to let you know. So we're going to go back over this again one more time. Hold on. Let me find it real quick.
Seven Mountains Mandate. This verse, which is the basis of dominion theology, and the Seven Mountains Mandate also play a key role in the Christian push to force women to have as many kids as possible. After all, doesn't the Bible say be fruitful and multiply?
Mm-hmm.
We'll deal with that later.
Yep.
The mandate is the idea that Christians are called to control the seven spheres or mountains of influence in the world. These mountains are religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business. And none of this is biblical. But it is an effective tool to gain power and so much money.
Now you heard her say that, power and money. Those seven mandates: education, religion, politics. Let's go back over them again real quick.
So much money. Earnest, and became what we now know as the Seven Mountains Mandate. This verse, which is the basis of dominion theology, and the Seven Mountains Mandate also play a key role in the Christian push to force women to have as many kids as possible. After all, doesn't the Bible say be fruitful and multiply? We'll deal with that later. The mandate is the idea that Christians are called to control the seven spheres or mountains of influence in the world. These mountains are religion, family, education,
religion, family, education,
government, media, arts and entertainment,
government, media, arts and entertainment,
and business.
and business. Okay, so y'all heard that. Now, Dr. Francis Cress Welsey and our brother Neely Fuller Jr. talked about the 9 areas of people activity. Those are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Those are the 9 areas of people activity. She just gave the 7 mountain mandate. Those are areas of people activity according to them and what they're talking about specifically: business, arts and media, religion, education. Let's go back again.
Play a key role in the Christian push to force women to have as many kids as possible. After all, doesn't the Bible say be fruitful and multiply?
And you see, she talk about the baby situation, having children, as many children as possible. Why? Why does that matter? It matters because the more children you have, according to what another young lady was talking about that just left the Mormon church, every time you have a child, you're bringing a child of God into the world. That's going to make the world a better place. This is what she said. I didn't say it. This is what she said. We're gonna listen to her on the next part. Not this part, but the next part. Okay? Because see, we're gonna get off into this thing. White people, y'all need to understand when you're being grifted. You need to understand when you're being taken advantage of, when you're being lied to, regardless of whether or not they're using God's word or not. I always tell people that I love and that I know the best way for you to get somebody to expound or help you understand what they think is you have to ask questions. Why do you where did you get that from? Why do you feel that way? So right here, what Miss Mater is telling you, Monty Mater is telling you, is this.
We'll deal with that later. The mandate is the idea that Christians are called to control the 7 spheres or mountains of influence in the world. These mountains are religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business.
Those are the areas. Those are the areas that they want to control. But they already have influence in all 9 areas of people activity as well. So, (2020s) current moment in consolidation. I'm back to white Christian nationalism overview. Scholars now highlight WCN as a significant ideological force with measurable impacts on politics, law, and culture. 3 of those mountains that she was talking about. Surveys and studies link it to support for authoritarianism, opposition to pluralism, resistance to secular democratic norms. The movement is often described as a backlash. The rising influence of white Christian nationalism poses a major threat to the health of our democracy. Institutional responses. Organizations such as Americans United for Separation of Church and State have produced analysis of WCN, example given, defining it explicitly as a belief that America is and ought to remain a Christian nation founded for white Christians. Key figures and scholars. Philip Gorski, who went to Yale, has written on WCN's roots and meaning. Samuel L. Perry, sociologist who co-authored with Gorski on WCN. Leonard Zeskind, trace white nationalist movements, including Christian nationalist elements. Catherine Stewart, journalist who documents the religious nationalist movement in the U.S. Her book is called The Power Worshippers. Okay. Now, why this timeline matters? It shows that WCN is not a sudden phenomenon, nor a fringe anomaly. Its origin spans centuries, and its basic components, white identity plus Christian identity plus American national identity, have long coexisted. It helps trace how WCN moved from elite theological, cultural ideas to mass mobilization and political strategy. Jerry Falwell, you can thank him for that. And if you haven't already, my suggestion to you, if you got Amazon Prime, God and Country was produced by Rob Reiner, and one of his friends co-produced it with him. I'm gonna need you to check out By All Enemies. Okay, look both of those up. They're documentaries on Amazon Prime. Look the names up. You can see where you can buy them, or you can see where you can view them. You need to watch those to get an idea, a real idea of what this Christian nationality, this Christian nationalist thing is all about. So I'm going to end it with this real quick. 1600s to 1700s. Colonial foundation and early formation. Okay. As early as the late 1600s, the building blocks of WCN were already present. The intertwining of Protestant identity, white identity, and American destiny. According to sociologist Phil Gorski, WCN finds its roots in the late 1600s. About 1690, scholars note that the ideology was fully formed. 1690. We're in 2025, and most of y'all are just now hearing about this. But this attitude, ideology, way of thinking has been around since 1690. 1690, keep that in mind. Scholars note that it was fully formed in its basic components: a chosen people, biblical story, an end times narrative, and a racial curse story, all embedded in white Protestant colonist thinking. For example, the City Upon the Hill sermon by John Winthrop, 1630, framed the New England Puritans as a divinely chosen community, which later scholars interpret as a part of the Christian nation myth. I'm not really big on entertainment unless it's fact-based, unless it's based on something, a true story, some type of reality. Me and my girl just got finished watching the first season of a show called Them, THEM, Them. Okay. That's on Amazon Prime as well. If you want to know, if you need an up close, personal, let me say, what word do I want to say? If you want a view of what it was like back then without any sugarcoating, if you want it raw and uncut, you need to watch Them, the first whole series, the first season, the whole season. It will give you an idea of some of the things that melanated people went through in this country that they are trying to keep from you, the whole human family, but they're trying to specifically keep it away from white children because they don't want them sympathizing with the people who went through it. They don't want y'all to do that. They want you to accept their version of history, and they want you to build on that to the point to where anything else doesn't matter. Check out Them so you can get an idea of what it was like in the 50s. What I will do is this. This book is an important book. You need to get it. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was a Black female child psychologist who ran into Brother Neely Fuller Jr. at a conference, and they sat down and had a conversation. This conversation rang a bell, which caused her to come up with her definition of racism, white supremacy. And I want y'all to really understand this. This is serious. I really want y'all to understand how serious this is. Okay. Because this book was written in the 1991 is when she published this. So in her dedication, this is what she said. I'm going to read the dedication, probably like maybe 2.5 paragraphs. And then I'm going to read the definition. Okay. And then we're going to close this one down we're going to close this first episode down. This work is dedicated to the victims of the global system of white supremacy racism. All non-white people worldwide, past and present, who have resolved to end this great travesty and bring justice, then peace to planet Earth. If you do not understand white supremacy racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you do understand or that you understand will only confuse you. No persons who classify themselves as white, no persons who classifies themselves as white, living in the area of the world referred to as the United States of America, for that matter, in any other area of the world, should presume to tell any Black person or other non-white person what racism is or is not until they have read completely Kenneth O'Reilly's Racial Matters, the FBI secret file on Black America, 1960-1972. This book right here. Okay. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. I'm trying to get it. See that? Racial Matters. The FBI secret file on Black America, 1960 to 1972. Kenneth O'Reilly. If you haven't read that book, I'm not even halfway through it yet. I had to put it down sometimes because it's like, whew, it's heavy. Continuing. No black person living in the area of the world referred to as the United States of America should discourse on racism or deny the conspiratorial dimensions of the local and global system of racism until he or she has read Racial Matters completely. Then, not just all non-white people, all of the human family should view the docudrama videotape, The 1C Conference, to observe exactly how white supremacist government calmly sits and plans the destruction of a people that it classifies as non-white. The 1C Conference took place in Germany in 1941 to finalize the plans for the destruction of 11 million Semites of the Jewish religion, non-white. Okay, that's what being a Semite is. The German white supremacists succeeded in killing 6 million. Therefore, this is in the introduction, the preface. This is in the preface of the ISIS papers. Okay. Therefore, it is critical to have a comprehensive analysis and definition of the opposing force. As a Black behavioral scientist and practicing general and child psychiatrist, my current definition of racism, white supremacy, is as follows. The local and global power system structured and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined. This system consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The ultimate purpose of this system is to prevent white genetic annihilation on Earth. And they will admit this because they've been saying it in their own way. A planet in which the overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow, by white-skinned people. All of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetically recessive white-skinned people. So, this is just the beginning of this discussion. I could go on for another hour just breaking down what I just read to you. And I don't even need any notes to do that. But what I will do is find this video that I do want you to listen to. I know where it's at.
I'm Vic Myers.
Hi, Vic. uh, okay. Hold on. It's in my history. Hold on, real quick. Just it's too long. The video is too long. I don't want to keep y'all for another. Can y'all give me a couple more minutes? I just need a couple more minutes. Okay. Just a couple. Because I want y'all to really understand how much this is being talked about right now. So, this video I'm going to play is by a young man named Garrison Hayes. Okay. He has his own YouTube channel. Go check him out too. Has his own YouTube channel. Go check him out too. See, y'all need to be informed and aware of the stuff that's going on. Stop listening to these talking heads. I'm not going to tell you to stop watching CNN, MSNBC, and all of them. If you're going to watch them with what I like to call a ear of discernment. Okay? Listen to everything you need to listen to, but have some discernment at the end of it. I mean, truly listen to what these people are saying. Look at these pictures. When you read your Bible, open your Bible up and put it over the world that we're living in right now and see what parts are coming out and what's not. Okay? Garrison Hayes and Jesse Dallmore. Jesse Dallmore grew up in a Christian nationalist home. He grew up under Christian fundamentalism is what he called it when he was growing up, but now they call it Christian nationalism. So did Miss Monty Mater and a couple of other people that I'm going to be sharing with you on the next one. But I want you to listen to this entire video. It's about 15 minutes. So this is what we'll do. I'm going to let you hear the first 7 minutes, and then we're going to come back for the last 7 minutes. That's how I'm going to start the next one. Okay? So we're going to share the screen, and I want y'all to listen to this.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years.
This is the Dollamore Daily. My name is Garrison Hayes, guest hosting here on the channel this week. Listen, this one bothered me. This one like genuinely annoyed me over the weekend. Like we've looped back around to the Christians defending the institution of slavery part of Christian history. And it's bothering me. Christian nationalist Joshua Hames, he's a commentator, defended slavery as an institution in a viral video that I need you to see. Take a look.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know. Just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said. Okay? Every Christian should be able to defend it. Big evangelicalism has been getting this wrong for years, basically since the Genesis, since the advent of Big Eva. They haven't had a good answer for the slavery issue. All right, Christians in America have been led astray on this topic. They've been led to believe things that the Bible doesn't teach. And when we go beyond the Bible, there are dire consequences.
Now this is obviously racist, and I'm going to tell you why it's racist, but I'm also going to engage with this in good faith. Easier said than done. I want to tell you what his argument is, and then I'll explain to you why his position is not only wrong, it is also obviously racist. Now, this clip is a part of a larger video that obviously we're not going to take the time to comb through this entire video. He actually summarized his position in his own words in a post on X that I'm going to show you right now. Joshua Hames, in defending his position that slavery is not inherently evil or wrong, he wrote this as a defense of his position. He says, it is not inherently sinful for one image bearer to own another. Insane. Slavery as an institution, he says, is not inherently evil. Insane. That being said, man stealing is inherently sinful and clearly condemned of the law of God. Thus, any form of slavery that includes man stealing is evil. Why is this important, he asks. We've been asking the same thing, but here we are. Because to posit that all forms of slavery are inherently evil is to accuse God, he says, of helping institute and regulate an evil system for the nation of Israel in the Old Testament. He goes on, God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
That's the truth.
If owning another person is inherently evil today, then it was inherently evil in ancient Israel, he says. And thus, you can accuse God of engaging in evil. What a doozy. Now, I'm going to debunk this stuff. I'm going to kind of take...
Now, you have to ask yourself something. Can you really do that? Can you say that God was inherently involved in slavery? I remember something Candace Owens said a couple of weeks ago on one of her podcasts that her text messaging between Charlie, you know, that they was all in the text messaging text group. And one of the people said, this nasty free will that God gave us to make choices. Nasty free will. Now think about that. Think about that. Let's continue.
Take it a few points at a time. There really aren't that many points being made. It's kind of all built on what I believe to be a house of cards. But I'm going to debunk it. And I'll even use a couple of scriptures here or there to do it. So let's start with the foundational claim. The thing undergirding his entire position, his entire argument, is that, to quote, to posit that all forms of slavery are inherently evil is to accuse God, he says, of helping institute and regulate an evil system. The foundational assumption that he is making here is that God endorsed the actions of biblical Israel. That if Israel did it, God endorsed it.
What do you
Brother, have you ever read the Bible? The Bible is like 90% God sending messengers to tell his followers that they are messing up, that they aren't carrying out his will. The last third of the Old Testament, he mentions the Old Covenant. The last third of the Old Covenant, of the Old Testament, is just diss track after diss track from the prophets, just writing songs, writing entire volumes about how God's people are doing stuff that God didn't like. I need you to read the book. I need you to read Jeremiah. I need you to read Lamentations. I need you to read Micah, an incredibly popular text in Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Let's do the King James Version for your benefit. He hath shown thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. If you were to go back and read that text, what Micah is saying is that despite all the sacrifices and despite all of the burnt offerings and all the symbolic and performative gestures that the people of God in the Bible were trying to carry out to appease God, we're going to do these symbols and we'll sing songs and we'll make sacrifices. Micah saying, no. God's already shown you what he wants from you. And it is for you to do justly, to stop carrying out injustice against marginalized people. If you were to go back and read the prophets of the Old Testament, ironically, God is constantly railing against the children of Israel for its treatment of marginalized people. Read the book. This is actually how I know most Christians don't read the Bible. They may read texts. They may read a devotion here or there. They may even read texts or devotions regularly. They may listen to a lot of sermons. But there is an embarrassingly thin, weak, elementary understanding of the scripture as a whole. It's a story about people in process, moving from one primitive idea to the next and trying to be ushered, discipled, as we might say, into a fuller, more compassionate ethic that culminates in so many ways with the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus.
So I'm gonna stop it right there. Okay. And family, this is getting really serious. Okay. This is getting really serious. And I'm going to need you I'm really going to need you to rock with me. I'm going to need you to rock with me on this one. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Seriously. But I'm going to need y'all to rock with me on this one. Got a lot of new stuff coming up. Here in the future. I'm here as a not even a warner. I'm here as a call me a siren. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when he thinks of himself and his message, he thinks of a trumpet. Those trumpets that they used to blow at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to get the people up. That's what he considered himself, as a trumpet. When I say siren, a siren is a warning that something is coming. When you hear them sirens, you start looking around for police cars, fire trucks, ambulance, because you want to get out the way to make sure they get to their destination. Also, a siren does what? When it gets off that sound, it lets you know something is coming. Something is coming. Now, whether you want to see it or not, that's up to you. But you can't say that you didn't hear the siren. You can't say that you didn't hear the trumpet. You can't say that you didn't hear the mouthpiece that God put on the planet. You can't say that you didn't know about Bible, about Quran, about messengers, about scripture. You can't say you didn't know that. Not anymore. So I'm kind of like a siren. Okay. It's plenty of sirens out here. You need to start paying attention to the sirens while they're going off. Because once they stop, that means the disaster is here. It's your brother 2020. You've been tuned in to Clear Vision. Thank you for hanging in there with me. If I've been having some difficulties or whatever, I really do appreciate everybody that showed up, gave a listen for a few minutes or whatever. This video will be going up immediately, so you'll be able to piece it together, do whatever. Like, subscribe, and comment. We need to talk about this, family. We really need to talk about this and discuss this. We need to get it in. So, thank you very much. 20 in the building, and I'm out. Peace.